During one of the dinners with your mentee, did you ever say to her, well, you probably want to know what I wanted to talk to you about. I mentioned to you there is an attraction here that I think needs to be explored. In my experience, there are 4 types of attraction: emotional, spiritual, sexual, or friendship. So the exercise here is to find out which one exists. You ever make such a comment?
I absolutely think that if you're going to mentor somebody, you've got to know what they are thinking. So
About attraction?
I don't have any recollection.
I've had a lot of mentees. I've never discussed attraction with any of them.
Well, then you haven't mentored them and figured out if they are giving the wrong vibrations, and you are not clear with them what the expectations are. I think you've got problems.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the panel for being here. Director Watt, I actually have a different line of questioning I want to get to, but you said something a minute ago that is just weighing on my mind so heavy. I'm having a hard time getting over this as a father and as a husband. Mr. Trott asked you about your line of questioning in mentoring someone regarding attraction, that you think that is an appropriate response, much less a responsibility of mentoring, is probably the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard since I have been in Congress. I can't imagine that anyone in a management position would think that would be a part of mentoring, much less appropriate. So I don't expect you to respond. In fact, I just needed to say that to get that off my mind so we could move on to other issues. Now, Director Watt, I don't know if you saw in the previous panel with the FHFA IG, but I discussed an email among Mr. Mayopoulos and Fannie board members that I believe shows a profound lack of respect and understanding for a company that is in FHFA conservatorship and has taken more than $116 billion in taxpayer funds. I'm going to read the email again, which is from Bart Harvey, the head of the Nominating and Governance Committee, to the chairman of the board. And the email writes, "Gents, I've seen it all now, that the OIG could report this to the House Financial Subcommittee is astonishing and Mel's placation regime. That OIG quotes as the FHFA agreeing with the majority of its reports on MRAs gives rise to another potential wave of regulation by FHFA. If I were a member of the committee and got this report, I would have a cow. That $5+ trillion of assets may not be operated in a safe and sound manner. As we know on the board, financial oversight exceeds anything the private sector gets by a multiple degree, even if a lot of it is wasted time and energy. The single biggest waste of time, money, and talent are the dueling agencies. Someone, Mel, ought to tell the House the load of crap that the OIG has heaped on them, but he won't. The games being played are a waste and abuse of taxpayers' money and stymie real progress, and we accept them. Getting out of conservatorship is the only answer to this foolishness. Best Bart." My question, Dr. Watt, is I realize you often have legitimate differences of opinion with the IG, and I respect that. But are Mr. Harvey's comments an appropriate response to oversight?
Certainly not an appropriate external response, but I don't know the circumstances under which this was written, whether it was internal, whether it was just blowing off steam. He certainly wouldn't have expected me to come over here. I mean, I think the email actually says Mel is not going to do that. But he puts his finger on a very serious thing, which is the very thing that I've been saying. Conservatorship is not sustainable because, I mean, if
that's a different of opinion. My questioning is this an appropriate
thing
response?
That people say internally, it doesn't. We don't have that capacity. And I'm not subscribing to what he said, but his final point was we got to get out of conservatorship.
And I understand that, and that's why I said I think a difference of opinion, I can understand that. My question is about the appropriateness of this response. Mr. Mayopoulos, or Mr. Harvey's comments an appropriate response to oversight?
No, Congressman, they're not. They don't reflect my personal views. They don't reflect the views of the board, of the management team. I don't think that's an appropriate thing for Mr. Harvey to have communicated in the way that he did. But as Director Watt said, it was an internal communication among a very small number of directors, but you didn't see me concurring with Mr. Harvey's comment.
Thank you for your direct response. Last question. Director Watt, on a different topic, have you ever stated that the hiring process at FHFA can be a charade process due to your ultimate power to make decisions one way or the other, or for any reason whatsoever? And have you ever engaged in a charade process as it pertains to hiring?
I've certainly tried not to engage in a charade process, and I think when the full text of these conversations comes out, you'll see that that was a totally different set of circumstances. Didn't even apply to Ms. Grimes, in fact.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will yield back.